Regarding the $4 million, I've resolved to allocate it between my mother and myself. This resolution followed closely on the heels of my father's funeral. While reviewing the inheritance documents, Harry, without any authorization, advised me, "Emma, try not to be overly selfish." He expressed his excitement about finally being able to resign from his job, thanking what he referred to as that doddering old man. Shocked, I accidentally responded, "Are you referring to my dad?" Ignoring my shock, Harry and my mother-in-law excitedly made plans to purchase a new vehicle and indulge in a shopping spree. This unforeseen development overwhelmed me. I was on the verge of losing my composure, burdened by household duties and financial demands, and now they were disrespecting my father. I could no longer tolerate living with Harry and my mother-in-law. Concealing my fury, I managed a smile and said, "Of course, use the funds however you and my mother-in-law wish. I am Emma, a 40-year-old housewife working with my husband. My parents, both doctors, managed a highly esteemed clinic in our hometown. As their only offspring, I was lavishly adored. After completing my education at the School of Pharmacy, I landed a position at a leading pharmaceutical firm. Though my parents were slightly let down by my career choice instead of medicine, they supported my decision. My world turned upside down 12 years ago when my mother died unexpectedly in an accident, leaving my father and me in profound grief. Harry, who was then my boyfriend, stood by me during those trying times. We got acquainted through a common friend, and 3 years after my mother's demise, Harry, working as a regular employee in the food and beverage sector, proposed to me. Despite his lesser income, I was confident we could face any challenges and lead a content life together. My father was delighted when I announced our engagement. "Emma, Harry has been a great support to you." He expressed his gratitude and requested Harry to continue caring for me. In front of my father, Harry stood tall and vowed to keep me happy. Standing beside Harry, I was filled with joy. The following week, we visited Harry's family to announce our engagement. His mother, overly adorned and a divorcee, scrutinized me dismissively. "Marriage, huh? She seems too plain for you, Harry, and she's older, too. Wouldn't a younger, prettier girl be more suitable?" Harry immediately defended, "Mom, you're aware of M Pharmaceuticals? Emma is employed there, and her father is a well-respected doctor." I had hoped Harry would highlight my qualities, but instead, he pointed out my financial background. This altered his mother's demeanor to one of approval. "Oh, Harry, you should have started with that. I'm totally on board now." "Pleasure to meet you, Emma," she said, seemingly content. Despite Harry's mother's consent to our marriage making Harry ecstatic, I couldn't shake off a lingering unease, even as everything seemed to proceed smoothly towards our wedding. My father, a physician and real estate investor, bestowed upon me a luxury apartment in New York City. I excitedly informed Harry, "Dad has bequeathed this apartment to us as a wedding present. It will be our new abode. Let's aspire to lead a joyous and serene life here together." Harry beamed with joy, and with that, we commenced our matrimonial journey. However, post-marriage, I encountered a disconcerting truth. Harry, who had previously resided with his parents, seemed utterly inept at managing household tasks. He lacked cooking skills, was unfamiliar with operating a washing machine, and exhibited no willingness to learn. His indifference led to his belongings being left strewn about, neglecting to dispose of them properly. While I aimed to equitably divide domestic duties, Harry's negligent behavior only intensified my discontent. Throughout the initial year of our marriage, I shouldered all domestic tasks, albeit grudgingly, attributing it to the novelty of our union. However, juggling work and home responsibilities became increasingly taxing. By our second year, I felt compelled to address the issue of shared domestic responsibilities with Harry. I candidly voiced my grievances, only to be met with Harry's unappreciative and unreflective retort, "I'm also tired from work. You excel at these tasks, and since I lack proficiency, it's best you handle them." His dismissive attitude persisted, leaving me to manage the household burdens alone. But household chores weren't the sole issue. After marrying Harry, I realized his mother harbored equally unusual expectations. With Harry indifferent to celebratory occasions, I decided to gift his mother a high-quality scarf and carnations for Mother's Day. Despite selecting a thoughtful gift, she contacted me expressing dissatisfaction, berating the non-branded nature of the scarf. My attempts to highlight its quality fell on deaf ears. She insisted on receiving gifts from renowned luxury brands. I relayed this incident to Harry, who, instead of supporting me, suggested, just comply with her wishes. Consequently, we resorted to presenting her with cash as she demanded. As years passed, particularly by our 5th year of marriage, she began visiting more frequently, often seeking financial assistance. Harry complied without hesitation, despite our modest means and his limited earnings. Pressured by these circumstances, I resorted to using our savings to manage our expenses. Despite my grievances, I recognized the significance of Harry's mother, especially considering her support during challenging times. She remained a vital figure in my life as Harry's mother. Thus, I persevered, continuing to manage household duties and financial support. Amidst this ongoing struggle, I received an unexpected call from my father, who I hadn't seen for a while, altering the course of events. During our infrequent encounter, he disclosed something utterly unforeseen. He was afflicted with terminal cancer and beyond the reach of treatment. Shocked to my core, tears uncontrollably streamed down my cheeks. In a comforting gesture reminiscent of my childhood, my father caressed my head and solemnly expressed, "Emma, this is simply the course of life. We must quietly come to terms with it." I couldn't help but exclaim, "Dad, why must this happen to you?" Consequently, my life turned into a relentless cycle of balancing work, domestic responsibilities, and regular visits to my father's hospital. Although my job provided some leeway, maintaining the household remained challenging. Upon informing Harry of my father's condition and my intent to tend to him, Harry remained indifferent, offering no support. His only response was, "It's unfortunate about your dad, but please do your best." He made a single visit to the hospital. Engrossed in my father's care, I found no time to attend to Harry, choosing to focus on my father whenever possible. During one visit, as my father rested, he inquired, "Emma, how are things between you and Harry?" Caught off guard, I reflected on Harry's lack of support and his mother's intrusive actions, struggling to respond. My father, sensing my hesitation, advised, "Emma, you shouldn't have to suffer. Consider your own happiness. Don't fret, you'll face no struggles after I depart." His words unleashed a flood of tears, and he gripped my hand in silence yet with assurance. For months later, the inevitable occurred. My father died peacefully. Amidst profound grief, I began organizing his funeral. Harry remained detached, offering no assistance with the preparations. Despite his indifference, I was too engrossed in funeral details to dwell on his apathy. The service saw a significant turnout, providing a touching tribute to my father. Even the usually indifferent Harry and his mother made an appearance. The day following the service, I was contacted by a lawyer regarding my father's estate. I attended the meeting, where I was confronted with unexpected details. After taxes, such as the inheritance tax, were settled, my father's assets totaled more than $4 million, a fortune amassed through his medical practice and real estate investments. I was his sole heir. Overwhelmed with astonishment and gratitude, yet daunted by the responsibility of managing such substantial wealth, I initiated the inheritance proceedings. Returning home, I laid out the attorney's documents on my desk and, overcome by fatigue, inadvertently fell asleep on the couch. Upon awakening, I was greeted by the distant, merry exchanges between Harry and his mother. Puzzled, I murmured, "Harry, and your mother, too? When did you arrive?" As Harry approached with a radiant smile, he exclaimed, "Yes, Emma, you've done well." Confused by his sudden enthusiasm, I noticed he was clutching the inheritance documents. Upon receiving the documents from the lawyer, I was taken aback and angered when Harry browsed through them without seeking my consent. I couldn't help but raise my voice at him. Nonetheless, my mother-in-law, unfazed and overjoyed, interjected, "Wow, a $4 million inheritance? That's incredible. Now we can enjoy a life of ease. Bewildered, I was at a loss as to why she would make such a remark. Then, Harry adopted a grave tone and declared, regarding the $4 million, I've resolved that it should be divided between my mother and myself. This unfolded shortly after the funeral of my father. Harry, having perused the inheritance documents meant for me without my authorization, advised me, Emma, don't act too avaricious. Oh, now I can finally resign from my job. I owe a debt of gratitude to that senile old man. Senile old man? Are you referring to my father? I inadvertently blurted out. Nonetheless, Harry pressed on, let's expedite the inheritance proceedings and transfer the funds to our shared account at the earliest. Ignoring my shock at this abrupt development, Harry and my mother-in-law gleefully discussed purchasing a new vehicle and going on a shopping spree. Overwhelmed by my emotions, I was on the brink of bursting, weighed down by domestic responsibilities, financial demands, and their disparagement of my father. Concealing my frustration, I responded with a feigned smile, sure, use the funds however you and my mother-in-law desire. Hearing this, my mother-in-law, apparently pleased, enthusiastically responded, that's the right attitude, Emma. Now, ensure you continue to work hard. We don't want our savings to dwindle, so keep earning. I merely nodded, pretending to heed her egocentric advice. Following this, Harry and my mother-in-law started behaving irrationally, squandering money extravagantly. Harry resigned from his job post-haste, and my mother-in-law virtually took up residence with us, indulging in daily extravagances. They would leave each morning and return laden with high-end purchases, lamenting, the 3-star restaurant we dined at today didn't meet our expectations. It really fell short for us, the connoisseurs. They engaged in such discussions as if they had transformed into affluent celebrities, all the while leaving all household chores to me, treating me as though I were a servant. Harry, under the impression that my father's inheritance would be promptly dispensed, rashly depleted funds from our joint account. My savings of $100,000 were quickly diminishing. When I voiced my concerns over their lavish expenditures, Harry merely scoffed. What's the worry? Isn't the $4 million on its way? Such spending is trivial then. Despite my protests and efforts to halt the wastefulness, Harry paid me no heed. Then, 1 month later, Harry and my mother-in-law abruptly set off for a holiday in Hawaii, excluding me from their plans. Left to fend for myself, I watched them depart. About a week after their departure, while I was enjoying some peace at home, I was startled by a series of loud knocks on the door, curious as to what was unfolding. Peering at the intercom display, I observed Harry and my mother-in-law clad in Hawaiian shirts at the entrance. What is it that you require? I inquired, maintaining a composed yet icy demeanor. Irritated, Harry retorted, what's the meaning of this? Why isn't the door opening? Noticing their bafflement over the unresponsive door, I confidently communicated via the intercom, I've replaced the locks, hence the door remains shut. Why have you done this? Let's discuss this matter calmly at the nearby cafe. Please proceed there, and I'll follow shortly, I proposed. After a moment of futile protestations at the doorway, Harry and his mother eventually conceded and departed for the cafe. Once they were out of sight, I headed out to meet them. Upon arrival, I found Harry and his mother already there, simmering with anger. What's the meaning of this? Did you change the locks? Hand over the new keys immediately, Harry demanded. There's no reason for me to provide new keys. Both of you should vacate the residence, I replied serenely to Harry and his visibly upset mother. Confronting a fuming Harry, I handed him a document, a divorce petition I had prepared. Divorce? Are you truly considering a separation? In disbelief, his mother exclaimed, Emma, why has it escalated to this? In a hushed tone, I addressed the bewildered pair. Given your daily extravagant spending, are you certain your financial situation is stable? Of course, the finances are secure, Harry countered aggressively. The inheritance from your father should still be intact, with over $50,000 remaining in our shared account. See, I'll prove it right now, he said, pulling out his smartphone to access the banking app. As he checked the account, his face contorted in shock. What's happening? The money was there just recently, he stammered. As confusion and panic set in, his mother also frantically checked her phone, her expression mirroring Harry's alarm. I then disclosed the truth. Obviously, the money is gone. I'm divorcing you, so I transferred the $50,000 to my personal account as part of the separation of assets. What do you mean? Harry's initial anger shifted to a smug expression, thinking he had an advantage. Fine, we'll get divorced. Then hand over the inheritance from your father immediately. After all, assets acquired during marriage are divided equally, right? You seem to be under a misconception, I countered. Were you unaware? The inheritance I received, despite being acquired during our marriage, is exempt from the division of marital property. A silence fell upon us. Then the expressions of Harry and his mother shifted dramatically, likely realizing they might not receive any portion of my inheritance. I was utterly shocked and merely exhaled in disbelief, thinking, no, this can't be happening. It's inconceivable. Her complexion flushed a mix of denial and rage. Please see for yourself, I said, slightly taunting. In a panic, Harry began to scour his smartphone. It states here that property inherited by a spouse from a relative is deemed separate and thus is not included in marital assets for division. It cannot be divided between spouses. Really? He exclaimed, disbelief coloring his tone. His mother, too, peered at the screen, equally astounded. Then, Harry came to me, his plea laden with desperation. Emma, please reconsider the divorce. I'm without savings or employment. How will I manage if we part ways? In response, I addressed him with clarity and resolve. What do you mean? Accept the consequences of your actions. I cannot erase the memory of your and your mother's mistreatment. The divorce is final. I'll take this matter to court if necessary. Intimidated by my assertive stance, which was unfamiliar to them, Harry and his mother recoiled, murmuring faint objections. Leaving them despondent, I exited the cafe. Subsequently, Harry and I managed to complete the divorce process smoothly. The court acknowledged the $50,000 I had transferred as part of our marital asset division, enabling me to extricate Harry and his mother from my life. Depleted by their reckless spending, Harry and his mother found themselves destitute. Harry, now burdened with substantial bills from lavish expenditures and credit card debts, found himself rapidly accruing more debt. Consequently, they now reside in a dilapidated apartment, laboring tirelessly to settle their burgeoning debts, a stark departure from their previous opulent lifestyle. Meanwhile, I sold the condominium I previously shared with Harry and relocated to my late father's apartment. Continuing my employment as before, I now lead a financially stable life, thanks to my father's inheritance. With heartfelt appreciation for my late father, I aspire to embark on a fresh chapter, dedicating myself to preserving my well-being and living serenely.